Hello. Today we visit r/AskReddit to ask what's an obvious sign someone's American. Make sure to comment if you are not American what sign signals someone is American, and if you are American what sign signals that someone from out of town. With that, sit back and enjoy. I worked as a cashier in a touristic place in Paris. I always recognized Americans because they were kinda friendly to me and they always left tips. I guess there are worse things than friendly and generous. When I lived in Europe, people said only Americans eat while walking. I'd be eating a bagel or something on the way to work or class and multiple people asked if I was American. My partner's Italian mother absolutely couldn't get over the idea of seeing people walk around holding coffees, especially iced coffee. Long coffees instead of espresso is weird enough, but the idea of sitting at a cafe and not just finishing your coffee before you leave. My French in-laws were similarly shocked. When we're on road trips we have to stop and go into Starbucks and sit down for like 45 minutes drinking our coffees slowly. Drives me nuts. On the flip side, when I was in Italy I was so confused why no one brought me a check after my meal. I didn't know I was expected to sit for 3 hours. They don't bring you a check unless you ask. Just bringing you a check means, you're done, pay and go away. This is how it's done in most European restaurants, otherwise you pay up front when you order. Walked into a bar, in Australia. Ordered a beer and then the bartender noticed I'm American. I asked, was it the accent or my choice of Budweiser beer? He said, because you're the fattest duck I have ever seen in my life, mate. Been laughing at this for 5 whole minutes. Legendary. I love Australians. They don't hold any punches. British man once told me he knew I was American because I was wearing a baseball cap backwards. An Italian told me they could tell I was American because I wore my sunglasses on the top of my head when I wasn't using them. Bonus points if you put them on top the bill of your ball cap. And rock a goatee. I did grad school in England. Learned a travel hack. Only Americans wear caps everywhere. Americans tip relatively big. If you need assistance, slap on your hat, and help will be on the way. Americans, do your part by continuing to tip big. I will never put a hat on anymore, I will now only slap on my hat. Gimme a minute, I just need a slap on the old hat. Thank you for giving me another reason to annoy my future wife. According to the CIA, when training to be a spy, you have to unlearn how to lean. Americans tend to lean on things when standing still. If you have time to lean, you have time to clean, CIA. Edit. Please stop responding that this is what they say wherever you work, that's the joke. Turns out my boss is CIA. Culinary Institute of America. I love this. Body language is both universal and cultural, even expressions and gestures. If you watch a muted recording of 2 individuals, one from the US and one not, you can still tell them apart. I wonder what people learn when trying to act American. Little stuff like leaning on things is so freaking fascinating, but it would also come naturally eventually as you acclimate. I guess those agencies such speed up the process by making you conscious of it. Can confirm I am American, and if there's something to lean on, I'm leanin'. And if there's nothing to lean on, I'll lean into one side of my body if that makes sense. Tactical sunglasses. This is so funny because every male aged 20 to 60 wears these in the Midwest and it's hilarious. Like, why are your sunglasses ready for combat? I've made fun of myself for it plenty and I think it's changed. But for years and years the only safety-rated sunglasses you could get to legally wear on job sites were made for the military stuff. I wanted decent polarized sunglasses because I was working outdoors 80% of the time and it was either that or the cheap crap safety glasses. Y'all. It used to be predominantly used by us in the southern states, but I've noticed it's been getting popular in the other parts of the US. I am a Yankee New Yorker and I use it all the time. It is just the best way to say you all. When they say, Europe, and it could mean anything from Venice to Doncaster. I visited Europe last summer. Yes, in 1 week I should add. To be fair, that's only an 18-hour drive. How was that again? For an European, 100 km is a long distance, for an American, 100 years is a long time. Australian here. Love that saying, in Europe driving 100 km is basically going to another country. In Australia driving 100 km is driving to the next town over. And that's just in the occupied areas. In the outback 100 km is Luke 1/5 the way to the next tiny settlement that may or may not have a petrol station. I don't know how true it is, but when I was in a hostel in Japan we met a guy from France I think. But anywho at some point he mentioned he could tell we were from USA. He said it was because we talked loudly. Like our normal speaking volume was louder. And now I can't help but notice that sometimes when I speak to someone from a foreign country, I do feel like I talk louder than them. I saw two American guys play catch on a basketball court in my neighborhood. They were standing on opposite sides of it and speaking to each other, no exertion or shouting it out, just like it's a normal distance to talk at. And I heard both of them perfectly well from the other side of the street. Never heard such a thing before or after. Never get stuck in an enclosed space with Filipinos if Americans are your version of loud. I would be absolutely fascinated to read a study about how this came about. There's bound to be some absolutely boring but logical reason you guys developed a louder talking volume than most other nationalities. Dundee in Scotland has a really odd inflection where they pronounce I with the same sound as an E in them, web, men, pet, etc. as. I did the tour at the Verdant Works, former jute mill, museum and the guide explained it's because the normal I sound would be drowned out in the factories so they switched to the A sound. So pi is pay, I is a, 5 is fev, etc. Always found that fascinating. On a similar note, from what I've been told by European friends and travelers, our complete and utter lack of an indoor voice. I've lived in America for 25 years and it still irritates me that instead of lowering their voices in restaurants so everyone can hear, Americans just scream over each other and make their restaurants as loud as clubs. Doesn't help, so many restaurants will blast music or the TV at concert level decibels. Your only recourse is to keep upping your voice so you can actually have a conversation at your table, thus creating a cascading effect of everyone shouting over everyone else. When they come at you with their Italian heritage, I'm Irish too. I get so much crap for it. I genuinely am Italian American. With family members who live in Italy. Have an Italian passport. Speak Italian and live in Italy. Not even Italians believe I'm Italian, when I have everything that qualifies me as a proper Italian. Why? 'Cause I was born in the US. And I write this comment in a cafe in Italy. Again on a similar note. When they claim to be 1/8 German, 1/8 Irish, 1/16 Scottish, 16th Spanish, 3/8 French and 1/4 Canadian. Please. We're not that smart. Half German, half Irish, half Scottish on my father's side, half Spanish on my mother's side, and my great-grandma was a Cherokee princess. Retail worker here, not living in the US. I can generally spot an American because they greet me with, "Hey, how are you?" And since I usually have the standard, tired from life, retail worker expression, at first I thought they were mocking me so I didn't know how to react. Took me a while to realize they weren't really expecting an answer, LMAO. Mind you, might just be my personal experience, but it's happened too many times for it to be a coincidence. Not a coincidence, in the US we're basically trained to have these meaningless, pseudo-friendly interactions with retail workers. If we walk into a store, a worker will greet us and ask how we're doing. The only acceptable reply is, "Fine, how are you?" And then we move on with shopping. It's true. Cashiers are expected to be almost comedically over the top friendly and helpful, and customers are supposed to respect that sacrifice by pretending to care for half a second. Then, when the transaction is complete, we flash blindingly excited or grateful smiles at each other, express a variant of, "Have a good day," or "Thanks, you, too," before disengaging. It's rude if you don't do these things. The gentle grins you give to strangers if you make eye contact with them as you pass by, at least in the Midwest, was not well received in Germany. Big city, don't. Small town, sure. I dated a European man here in the US. When we walked together, every time I made eye contact with someone on our path I would smile at them, and they would always smile back. Boyfriend was so confused at all these strangers smiling at me. Kept asking if I knew all these people. It was hilarious. They measure things in inches and yards and talk about weather in Fahrenheit. I live in the UK and I've gotten the hang of all the measurements except Celsius. Telling me the temperature in Celsius makes absolutely no difference to me because I won't know if it's hot or cold. 200 degrees Celsius is oven temperature. 100 degrees Celsius is water boils. 40 degrees Celsius is way too hot to do anything, stay inside of climate's buildings. 37 degrees Celsius is body temperature. 30 degrees Celsius is hot summer day, t-shirt and short pants. 20 degrees Celsius is normal summer day, t-shirt weather. 10 degrees Celsius is long sleeves, t-shirt, with wind it is a bit cold. 0 degrees Celsius is water freezes, wear something a bit warmer, jacket is more or less mandatory. 10 degrees Celsius is you should get your winter coat and gloves. 20 degrees Celsius is air starts to hurt, alcohol, wine, liquor starts to freeze, salt is useless on the streets. 30 degrees Celsius is stay inside heated buildings, hypothermia without clothes in approximately equals 20 minutes. 40 degrees Celsius is 40 degrees Fahrenheit and it's damn cold. To be fair, I've said, the US, or, America, to people in foreign countries asking where I'm from and they always say, yeah obviously, but where in the US? Exactly. I live in Spain and this is what happens to me 100% of the time. It's always underwhelming when I say, Idaho, and they just reply with, oh. Because they've never heard of it and it's not that interesting of a state for conversation unless they want to talk about pretty mountains and lakes. An inordinate amount of small talk, unprompted. This is definitely dependent on where in America. Midwesterners love small talk, but other areas it's more frowned upon. I've noticed this as I've traveled myself from the Midwest and everyone seems peeved. In my homestay in London, I was told that I was so American for enjoying a piece of cake for breakfast, not frosted cake, but like a nuts and dried fruit spiced coffee cake kind of thing. Apparently that's exclusively for like a 4 p.m. snack, and breakfast is more of a savory meal. That's true. A lot of American breakfast items in my mind are desserts, pancakes, muffins, waffles etc. Doesn't mean I won't eat them, but it's kinda weird to do so. German here. My wife is Brazilian with Italian heritage. She loves Americans and thinks we are unique. However, we have had the discussion about how we showcase indifference too much on what should have passion and also how we focus on achievement over simply enjoying the passage of time. That to us time is focused on living to work, not working to live. How we focus on achievement over simply enjoying the passage of time. Only now, in my 50s, having this revelation. Extremely white bleached teeth. Someone asked if I was American in a group setting and someone spoke before me and said, of course look at his teeth. Most Americans get braces, and I was like well shit. Well the ones that don't usually can't afford to travel. And now the comment that summed up my opinion of the thread. As an American, I was expecting to get roasted in these comments. But after reading them I can only laugh and agree. Laugh very loudly while leaning. I've realized how much I lean, but I thought that was a lazy or bad posture thing. I had no clue it was a part of my culture. With that, thank you for watching all the way until the end and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you are not American what sign signals someone is American, and if you are American what sign signals that someone from out of town. If you want to continue to watch my content, click one of the videos above. Until next time.